This episode is brought to you by The Author's Mark, Juxtabook's 12-month professional publishing experience for nonfiction authors beginning in January 2026. It's a high-touch, guided journey that includes personalized one-on-one coaching, group sessions with industry experts, and a live in-person workshop, all designed to take your book from idea to published platform in 12 months or less. Only 12 authors will be accepted in this first cohort. Learn more and book your discovery call today at juxtabook.com/authorsmark. Today's episode is going to change how you see yourself as an author, especially if you're a nonfiction author who's a coach, consultant, a speaker, or a thought leader. Because here's what I want you to think about. You are not just an author. You don't just have a book. You are, whether you realize it or not, an intellectual property company, an IP company. And when you start to operate in that way with that mindset, your entire author journey is going to shift and change. Your book becomes an asset. Your content becomes licensed value. And your expertise becomes something you own and can package and sell really far beyond the book itself. And later in this episode, I'm going to share around this topic some of the most important mindset shifts that I really wish every other author had and which I teach before publishing. And it's short, it's simple, and it's powerful. So hang on through the entire episode. I'm really excited to dive into this with you. This is Your Path to Publish. I'm your host, Zach Christensen. For the past decade, our team has guided authors just like you to find the best path to publish your book, get people excited to buy it even before it launches, and to turn it into the ultimate business card to build your business and your legacy. If you are ready to get your book out of your head and into people's hands, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. So one of the most transformative insights that I learned about and wish I could claim recently around this, but it was recently at one of the conferences I was attending, is that the moment you decide to write a book, you become an intellectual property company. Not a hobby writer, not a maybe one-day author, but a company with assets. Yes, that's plural, and it's not just the one that you're using to sit right now. So think about the powerhouse brands out there like Taylor Swift. And she's an incredible example of this, especially as she's gathered all of the rights back to her music. Yes, she's a musician, but when you really think about it and take a step back, she is an IP empire. Her songs, her recordings, her merchandise, her brand, and the way that she tells her story, they're all different assets that she can remix, repurpose, license, and sell in many different formats across all sorts of different platforms. And that's exactly what nonfiction authors have, and you can start to build up and recognize. Why this matters for your book publishing strategy is because when you start behaving like an IP company, suddenly your book is not the end goal. It's much more than that. It's anchoring your stories, your frameworks, your models, and methodologies into a product, into an asset that you can use. Your course, keynote, training, or consulting system really becomes a valuable revenue engine. The media, your podcast, your LinkedIn content, your social media content, your TikTok videos, whatever it is, become distribution channels. And this is where book marketing, hybrid publishing, and self-publishing strategies really start to make sense because you're not just chasing royalty checks, you're leveraging a book to build an ecosystem. And that's the reframe that I think most authors will recognize and be like, oh yeah, of course. But I've never thought about it in the way that you're an IP company. Now, this might sound a little bit backwards coming from me, who has a podcast called Your Path to Book Publishing and runs a company called Juxtabook. But my upcoming book is part of my business. The authors I work with are part of my business, and I want to help them succeed. But I have to remember and realize for me and for my authors, that my upcoming book is not my business. Their book is not their business. Your business is what the book unlocks. So look at nonfiction authors who have been great examples of this over the past decade or two. First is Brené Brown. Brené Brown didn't become Brené Brown because of one book. She built out multiple books and licensing and a training organization and gives keynotes. James Clear turned his blog into a book, and then that book into continued newsletter, speaking, consulting, and continues to build out brand deals. Donald Miller, who turned StoryBrand from a book into a curriculum, a certification, and a full-scale agency. Your model might not look like theirs, but the principle is the same. A book is a tool for scale, a credibility engine, a distribution channel. It's really where you're helping your audience develop their business. Now, whether that's through people, through their actual business, whatever it is, you're out there building more. You're building out your IP. And when you understand that, your book marketing suddenly becomes strategic and not necessarily reactive. You aren't just promoting a book, you're promoting the ecosystem around it. So let me introduce another frame that most authors need to consider. Authors, you're not selling a book, you're selling rights. Rights turn into revenue. Revenue can turn into scaling up your business, and then your intellectual property can show up as the book rights, the audio rights, the bulk sales, licensing your framework to companies, white labeling it, certification programs, speaking, courses, workshops, retreats, and as your book grows, even foreign rights deals. I once read a book called The Magic of Thinking Big. That's what this is. You're thinking big. So some questions for you. What is the next asset that your audience needs? Now, they might not call it an asset, but I want you to think about it in that way. What rights can you start to license? I have an author who's running different programs to help people overcome addiction challenges. And they're starting to get therapists and others saying, hey, how can I become licensed in your content? Because it's having a tremendous impact and I want to have that same impact. Up to that point, they had considered it, but not built it out yet. And now they're starting to feel the demand for it. That's a good sign. Next, how do I make this book the gateway to a bigger transformation? And thinking about it this way is the difference between a $5,000 a year and a $500,000 a year author business. Now, one thing that's great about thinking about this as an intellectual property company as well is that you need to figure out how you're going to protect it. People aren't deliberately taking your content, but what if they come to your keynote and they record it? Whether it's a company or an individual, it's really difficult to keep track of just making sure that not everyone's recording it on their phone and then taking it, transcribing it, and throwing it into AI and using it for their own purposes. And then knowing for sure, does AI keep that closed or do they put that into their open system? We can see the trouble that Anthropic has had this year, and now that they're paying out $1.5 billion to authors whose books were used to train their platform. So make sure you're seeking out the right protection in the right way so that if you do see something that's yours, that's out there, that you should get credit for and you should get paid for, that you have a way to protect yourself with it. So to sum up, stop seeing yourself as a writer. Start seeing yourself as an asset builder. Your expertise is an asset. Your frameworks are an asset. Your stories are assets. Your brand is an asset. And your book is simply the first vehicle that helps carry those assets out into the world. So when you think like an IP company, you can start thinking about making better publishing decisions, marketing your book more confidently because of the value that it can bring. And then your author platform will build out and will start to convert. And then at some point, you're going to stop playing small and you'll move in to playing bigger because you're no longer just writing a book. You're building a catalog, one that grows in value year after year. Now, if you've been listening to this and thinking, I need help mapping out the IP strategy behind my book, well, get on juxtabook.com and book a consultation with me. And we can talk about where you want to go with your author business and your author IP. And we can figure out what's coming next and if we're the right fit for you and where you want to go. This topic I'm covering perfectly pairs with the next episode, where I'm going to talk about 37 ways that you can make income from your book. Many of them were mentioned in this episode today, but we're going to go into the details and categorize how you can use this and what you can build over the long term. If you haven't already and this episode was valuable for you, please give a review. It truly helps us grow, helps us show up in the podcast rankings and find the people who Juxtabook and this podcast is going to be a best fit for. So whether you're traditionally publishing, self-publishing, or hybrid publishing, share it with an author that you know. I really do appreciate it. So go out there today, keep writing, keep publishing, keep building out your author brand and marketing so it has an impact in the way that you want to and in the way that will help change the world and our culture. Thank you for listening today.